to Life on Earth. Welcome to Life on Earth.
Well, hello, you good people, and welcome to Life on Earth.
Hi, everybody. I have baby Rona.
Amy's got the Rona. Oh my
baby
God.
Rona. We need to have a song that's really annoying and very catchy. If anybody wants to do a song about baby Rona, you know, with maybe some cute cartoon figures.
Oh, you mean like the baby shark thing?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. So Amy's got coronavirus. Means I'll be talking too much. She'll probably be talking less. Or maybe she'll be talking, but she won't be making as much sense as usual.
I won't be making as much sense. We're talking about integrity today, and I'm the foil. I'm the opposite of integrity.
Are you disintegrated?
I'm disintegrated.
Are you the voice of D in the dim hypothesis?
Yeah.
Because we need to talk about integrity, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to give you take homes that are going to pay off for you, that are going to give you like dollars, money, the little memes that say, step one, read the way of integrity, step two, and then they just leave a question mark, and then step three, profit. That's what this show is going to be. This is going to be meme worthy. A few weeks back, we talked about benevolence and the benevolent universe premise. If you missed that episode, don't go back and watch it right now. Keep watching, but go back afterwards and pick it up. And we gave an example at the time. You might remember this. You're in a grocery store. You're in the checkout aisle. You're about to get up to the register. There's a mother of 3 triplets, harried mother behind you. She's got like one item in her shopping cart. And the question comes up, do you let her go ahead of you? Do you say, hey, you go ahead?
No, you actually turn around and say, ha ha, sucks to be you.
See, now the voice of disintegration, the voice of no integrity says, oh, hell no. There may be circumstances when that's actually the right answer, but I made the point at the time, it's not a matter of altruism to take advantage of opportunities to be polite or to be kind or to be generous or to be charitable. It's a matter of integrity, of capitalizing on these opportunities you see to express your ability, your benevolence, your values. Ayn Rand wrote in The Virtue of Selfishness, quote, "The virtue involved in helping those one loves is not selflessness or sacrifice, but integrity. Integrity is loyalty to one's convictions and values. It is the policy of acting in accordance with one's values, of expressing, upholding, and translating them into practical reality. If a man professes to love a woman, yet his actions are indifferent, inimical, or damaging to her, it is his lack of integrity that makes him immoral." So, I want to relate this to integration in epistemology. Integration, integrity, are they related? Well, our bodies, our systems, our brains automatically integrate sensations into percepts. And then we opt to integrate percepts into concepts, and concepts into propositions, and propositions into theses, into systems, whole systems of thought.
Unless you have the Rona.
Unless you have coronavirus,
Yep.
in which case we cut you a little extra slack. But no, you do these things and you integrate these systems into wisdom disciplines, into ideas about how to live. And I said I'm always a little suspicious when an objectivist tells me, oh, I already believed all that stuff. Ayn Rand just reinforced it or gave me the words to use. And I have to admit, and you let me know in the chat if you've run into this too, I have 2 contradictory reactions. Because first, I'm automatically skeptical. And not because I think the statement's necessarily dishonest or even necessarily braggadocious, but because these ideas, this philosophy is more than just revolutionary. This philosophy is a way, a path. And unless I know the person in question has achieved extraordinary success and happiness and peace of mind, I've got to wonder if they really get these ideas. But the second half of the contradiction is that I find myself wanting to believe the claimant because it's perfectly natural that someone's philosophy, to the extent it was based in reality, and we're all in reality, and to the extent it was based in human nature, and we all have a similar human nature, then that should align with objectivism. These ideas, objectivism is to be lived. And if somebody's been living rationally and successfully and happily, it stands to reason that to a substantial extent, their ideas do align with objectivism, that they do have integrity in that way. Let me quote Ayn Rand's definition of integrity, her passage from ARCUK. Integrity is the recognition of the fact that you cannot fake your consciousness, just as honesty is the recognition of the fact that you cannot fake existence. That man is an indivisible entity, an integrated unit of two attributes of matter and consciousness, and that he may permit no breach between body and mind, between action and thought, between his life and his convictions, that like a judge impervious to public opinion, he may not sacrifice his convictions to the wishes of others. Be it the whole of mankind shouting pleas or threats against him, that courage and confidence are practical necessities, that courage is the practical form of being true to existence, of being true to truth, and confidence is the practical form of being true to one's own consciousness. I've quoted that, unquote, I've quoted that last passage before because I want to hammer it into the brain of anybody who doesn't have it memorized yet.
You mean integrate it?
I want to hammer it in.
So that it's integrated?
And I guess if they integrate it, I won't have to hammer it.
Just mush it there. I don't know if it's really it's gonna be no more than osmosis.
Yes. This is so important that if you go to the Ayn Rand lexicon, it's got its own entry under courage and confidence.
Oh yeah, let me go to the Ayn Rand lexicon right now.
Courage and confidence are practical necessities. Courage is the practical form of being true to existence, of being true to truth. And confidence is the practical form of being true to one's own consciousness. So, Stoicism. Okay, not literally Stoicism, but I have a quote from the Stoic philosopher Seneca. And I'm going to encourage everybody to study.
You want me to? Do you want me to do that?
Including you.
Oh, really? Okay.
To study the letters of Seneca the Younger.
Oh, Seneca the Younger. Is there an elder?
There is. His
Okay.
father was actually Seneca the Elder, which is why the Seneca we all know and love was called Seneca the Younger. And among other things, in his letters, Seneca wrote, "Philosophy teaches us to act, not to speak. It exacts of every man that he should live according to his own standards, that his life should not be out of harmony with his words, and that further his inner life should be of one hue and not out of harmony with all his activities. This, I say, is the highest duty and the highest proof of wisdom, that deed and word should be in accord, that a man should be equal to himself under all conditions and always the same."
I like that deed and word should be in accord.
Deed and word, you should do what you
'Cause that-
say and say what you
It
mean.
kind of rhymes.
That's true.
It might actually go well with some of our baby Rona songs that we're making up.
Are we making Baby Rona songs? This
Yeah,
is gonna be
we've
like,
got
this is gonna be more popular than Baby Shark. You watch.
we've got to my Sharona. We've got baby Rona. Dun dun dun. Like
No,
that.
that's good, but
It's
that one was.
That's from Anne, and
yeah.
then from Alex, he says everybody was woo flu fighting.
Wu flu, Wuhan flu. Very good.
So
Philosophy teaches us to act,
Yes.
not to speak. You know, we used to get into conversations, some people still do online, about who's an objectivist, who's a true objectivist. Well, I'm an objectivist. Are you a good objectivist? Forget
you
all
are
of
a
that.
bad
The only
objectivist.
The only thing that really matters, I guess it matters how much you study, how well you know, for example, OPAR, whether you've ever run an Atlas Shrugged trivia contest like some of us have. But the real question is, to somebody who says I'm an objectivist, is how's your life?
How's your universe?
How's your universe?
Like
Are you
that.
living these ideas? Are you squeezing the value out of these ideas? And that's why when an objectivist tells me, oh, I already believed this stuff, Ayn Rand just gave me the
Yeah.
words.
Are you having fun and laughing and joking even if you're sick?
Are you loving this? Are you living your truth? And that's not as easy or as simple as it sounds. Those of you who've actually tried it, who've actually put these ideas to work, you've probably found career success. You may have found some romantic success. You may have revisited some of the challenges of your youth and gotten through some of those, but I'm learning, at least in my case, it's not that easy. And so...
Yeah, why? Tell me why that isn't easy.
Well, I know a lot about objectivism, and I am doing my best to live in accordance with it, to have integrity with these ideas. And what's strange is that psychology matters. Stuff comes up from my youth or from my young adulthood or even from recent past that does make it a challenge. And maybe I can better explain why that's a challenge by talking about not Seneca, who I will recommend to you at the end of the show, a great resource on Seneca, but The Way of Integrity. The Way of Integrity.
Yeah, and it says here, integrity does not consist of loyalty to one's subjective whims, but of loyalty to rational principles. In the life, doesn't life require compromise?
Exactly. So if you know rational principles, you're just loyal to those. And what I'm finding is that that's true, but there's more to it than that. You have to be loyal to your own worldview. What some people say, loyal to your own truth, which sounds radically subjective, but that's not really what they mean, at least not if they're getting it right at all. What they really mean is that you need to be loyal to your own sense of life, your own worldview, your own hierarchy of values, your own beliefs about what life on earth is and should be.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of work. You know, I remember there was somebody that we knew from the past who kind of debated with us about the idea of objectivity, and that really it doesn't, that concept just doesn't matter because they know what they want in life. They're going to go after it as long as they know what their desires are, what they want. They're going to keep doing it, and they don't necessarily want to introspect. They just want to keep going forward and moving. So how is it that doesn't quite work? That can you keep going forward and moving if you just don't examine what your values are and you just feel like you are maybe going forward?
It turns out pragmatism doesn't work, by which I mean saying it doesn't matter what came before. I know the right things to do. It doesn't matter even what the truth is because I know what people expect. I know what they want. I know how to satisfy demands. It turns out that gets you only so far. You know, pragmatism is better than out and out hedonism. I'll just do whatever I feel. Neither one of them really works in the long run because you still have those contradictions with reality, those untruths. And in a war with reality, there's only one winner. Reality keeps coming back to bite you in the tuchus. You know, even Gail Winan found out at the end of The Fountainhead as he's wandering around Hell's Kitchen with his media empire and his enormous wealth. And he looks down and he's like, I never got out of this place. It's one of the things I'm finding at my age. The stuff in my youth that never got dealt with, it's still there, still having an impact. You may find this too. We need resources. We need wisdom disciplines to get through that stuff. I've got one I'm going to recommend to you. But first,
let's see.
I got to say thank you to Jonathan Honig.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Because he's in there with the super chat.
For
and contributing to the Ayn Rand Center UK.
Appreciate
so if
that.
you're in the chat and you want to support the ARC UK, well, you know the first thing to do, sign up, become a member of the Ayn Rand Center UK at aynrandcenter.co.uk. All sorts of good reasons to do this, including access to things you won't have access to unless you are a member. I know the real reason is you want to be a cool kid like us. That's a good reason. Bonnie is in with a super chat. Thank you very much for that. And sending us diamonds. Oh, thank you so much. One of the things you'll get access to, and this is great, this has just started this week, is the Sunday morning study sessions that are exclusive to members. This information, these links, you don't have access to this unless you're a member. Oh my gosh, Jeff Bannister is in for $50 Canadian.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. That's wow. He says, you're amazing. No, you're amazing.
That's right. You are amazing. And the ARC UK, and especially Amy and I, greatly appreciate that. In fact, well, yes, thank you. Thank you very much for that. If you are a member, you have access to these Sunday morning study sessions, and you can go into the archives of past. James Valiant leads these amazing sessions. You've heard him talk about Ayn Rand's essays on Tuesdays, always outstanding. You've heard him talk to Amy and I on our Friday afternoon study sessions on Leonard Peikoff's essays. But if you want to get into the deep stuff, objectivism through induction, understanding objectivism, you'll have access to this by being a member. And new just started this week. And don't worry, there are archives. You can pick the first session back up that happened Sunday.
They're archived? You can go back and listen to them?
You can go back and listen to them.
It's amazing.
Just started the ominous parallels.
Yes.
Now, as I mentioned last Friday when we talked to James Valiant about this, some people look at the cover of the ominous parallels, or what's the title of the updated version of the book? I always forget because I'm so used to the ominous parallels.
Something
the
like
cause
we're
of
all
Hitler's
doomed,
Germany.
run away.
No. The cause of Hitler's Germany. If you look at the cover of this and you think, oh, it's about World War II, it's about Hitler, it's about Nazism, I kind of get all that, or I'm just not that interested, realize this is not about Nazism per se. This is about the history of Germany, the history of the United States, the history of the world. And the thesis is that philosophy is the driver of history. And that's contrasted with the great man theory of history. History is decided by these few individuals who come along.
Like the what are they called? Illuminati?
Yes. Well, those are not usually the example that's given, but
I don't know.
people like Hitler and Mussolini, people like Roosevelt or Ronald Reagan. They're not all villains. Some of them are supposedly heroes, but the point is, as important as great men are as objectivists, we know the importance of great men and great minds, or at least influential men and influential minds. As important as that is, none of what they do, none of what they accomplish could be possible or understandable without ideas. Ominous parallels, Sunday morning study sessions. Yes. You want to be in on it. Ayn Rand Center UK, aynrandcenter.co.uk, sign up for membership. Now, there is a separate membership you can sign up for too, just for fun. This is great. You see this in the chat. Some people have access to some quirky icons. They will have access to some private things that will only be members only. Through the YouTube group, you become a member of the Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube channel for £4.99 a month, I think it is. I don't know. We're signed up. I don't even care what it cost. I'd be in no matter what it was. You even get the cute little green icon by your comments that says, "Hey,
worth it.
I'm an insider, man."
Like, I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to play with these here.
Oh yeah, there's the quirky emoji too. You have special icons that aren't part of the usual emoji pack.
You got Lisa Van Dam.
So enough about that. You have all the good reasons to sign up at the webpage for the Ayn Rand Center UK. Sign up for the YouTube channel. We'll talk more about some of the perks of that later. But I mentioned Ayn Rand's definition of integrity. I mentioned courage and confidence. I mentioned Seneca on integrity. One more that I need to talk about, and this is a journey, this is a path, this is a way. In fact, it's a book called The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck.
The Way.
The Way.
I feel like I want to break into some Tai Chi when you say that.
That's right.
Or some yoga or some meditation.
I don't know. I always think of the Fastway song. Where were they going without ever knowing the way? But this is The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck. Now, here's the spoiler for the end of this. I'm giving you links to all of these resources that you can take advantage of, that you can capitalize on without spending any money. Until you decide you want to, but there's so much good stuff out there and well organized. Well, we'll get to that at the end. Martha Beck, The Way of Integrity. It's a longish book. I'm also taking it in on Audible, which is always a great way to take these in. And what's interesting about Martha Beck and The Way of Integrity, in which she seeks to help us all achieve greater integrity in our lives, is she uses as a framework for this Dante's Divine Comedy. And I'll give you a 4-part breakdown because she uses that.
Yeah, give me a refresher.
The book is rich. It's really rich. And I'm going to tell you how to capitalize on that richness at zero cost.
Ooh.
But first, the 4 sections. She talks about the dark wood of error. And, Dante is wandering through the woods and he catches up with Virgil, the poet, his great inspiration, who helps him figure out what to do facing all the monsters, in the woods.
So you're not talking about mahogany.
Not that dark wood, no. No, these are the dark woods.
Oh, the dark woods,
yeah.
The dark forest of error.
Dark forest, yes.
Error.
Yes, that's right. Well, the errors are those beliefs that we have picked up that give us that sense that I am lost. And we pick up these errors, these beliefs from our cultures. Now, she doesn't mean Western culture versus Eastern culture. She's talking about the cultures of our social groups, our family, our workplace, our neighborhood, our larger society. We take in all of these ideas, even ones that we're sure we were never taken in by, peer pressure or some other idea. And yet we live these ideas. And more than that, we've taken in the idea, for example, that I'm the breadwinner of my family. I'm a man. I need to work hard. And that is my value, is in working hard, supplying a home and food and education for my children.
I shall provide for 13 children.
And what happens?
And 5 wives.
Now, I know a lot of you are out there much more independent than that. And you're thinking, well, I've never fallen for any of that. You will be surprised. Trust me. We get to where we think we've done everything right. And I'm going to put up the air quotes. We think we've done everything right. But our lives are foggy and murky and we're unhappy, or at least we're not nearly as happy as we feel we should be. And what's interesting, one thing she points out is that, especially for those of us who are hardworking and career-oriented, is when it's not working, what do? Say, oh, I just need to work harder. Or if money isn't making us happy, I just need to earn more money. We double down on whatever it is we're doing that has us feeling lost.
Yeah, trying to grasp at that control and then not introspecting or examining what we're doing.
Well, we don't ask ourselves, am I really living the life that matches my spirit, my psychology, my soul, my values? And so we have to work our way through the dark wood of error by identifying these beliefs that we have picked up along the way. And unfortunately, you can't just fix them. Awareness is not always curative, as we've said before. Sometimes it is. But no, we have to go into, remember, the allegory is Dante's Divine Comedy. We have to go into part 2, the Inferno. We have to go through hell.
Oh, fun.
What does Steve Miller say? You got to go through hell before you get to heaven. Big old jet airliner.
Jet airliner.
That's right.
Yeah.
But what we need to do is we need to confront the parts of ourselves that are trapped in untruth.
Before you go in, can I interrupt you for a second?
Please.
So Bonnie had a nice point here. She said, she read Anthem when she was 19, and she had this strong emotional response. She thought, this is good, even though everything around her was God, family, and tradition, the swampiness of all that. And then she said, I'm proud of that, but I certainly didn't know the key elements of objectivism beforehand.
Yes.
And, speaking of integrity, sometimes you don't really need to know, you don't need to have read Oprah or read Ayn Rand even at the time. I remember when I was I don't know exactly where this comes from, and I need to think about this a little bit more, but teenagers, or at least the good teenagers out there, have this like lightning, like they zone in on hypocrisy, and they see all of these contradictions just through their own inductive thinking about what's going on in their lives and the adults that they see in their lives, and that they're not happy and they're not fulfilled, and or they're just living just self-destructive lives basically, and they scream hypocrisy, and somewhere along the line there, when I was a teenager, before I read Ayn Rand, I thought, that these people, I heard the phrase, this person is living a lie, that idea that, so those concepts are out there, outside of objectivism. They're out there in the culture, and I'm sure they still will be. And that's really good. And I think for people who think, before they read Ayn Rand, or right after, or something, when they're young, they think of these things, and they should definitely give themselves credit for that and be proud of themselves, because all of that is, that firsthand thinking is really wonderful.
Yes. So the inferno, dealing with the challenges of the inferno, is dealing with the parts of ourselves that are trapped in untruth, that we have accepted things that don't match what we at our core really believe. I've always wondered when people say you need to adopt better beliefs or change your beliefs. And, well, you figure out what's true, and then that's your belief. There is no choosing a belief. But it turns out that psychologically, there are things we believe at that sense of life, at that core level, that conflict with things we consciously and explicitly believe. And yet, the logic that we are using for those conscious beliefs tells us, no, this is the rational thing to believe, that nothing is certain but death and taxes, that you can't fight City Hall, that you have to compromise in these kinds of situations, otherwise it's self-destructive. And so we have to deal with those parts of ourselves that are trapped in untruth, things that we believe and take action on, which at a deeper level we know are untrue. It's a complicated process of going through that. There's a workbook associated with it that I'll talk about in a moment, but just know that much.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really excellent introspection tools there.
Well, that's 1 and 2. Now, the third of these 4 domains we're going to talk about real quick is purgatory. Remember, Dante's Divine Comedy. So we go through hell. Now we're starting to come out of hell, go to purgatory. And what happens is we need to release those false beliefs we have. We are obeying something in our culture out there that is defying something that's true about ourselves. And learning what's true, and then acting and speaking our true nature, or truth. We, as Ayn Rand points out, we need to be true in speech and in action. Same thing Seneca tells us. And this will lead to conflict. One of the examples, for example, the author gives was she was a Mormon. And at the point at which she's writing about this section, she gives an example. She was raising a family.
Yeah.
She was working at Brigham Young University, which, for those who don't know, is a Mormon religion-based university. And yet, it's an institute of higher learning. It's very well regarded in certain studies. She was making a good living. She wasn't teaching religious ideas. She was teaching humanities. And yet, even using the word, for example, feminism in a course, not to advocate for it, but just to teach history, would get her in trouble with the administration.
Wow.
And she realized she was basically presenting not explicitly lying, but she was presenting one face to that culture, even though she herself had no sympathy for that at all. And she realized that if I'm going to be true to myself, it's going to lead to conflict, but I have got to be true to myself. We've got to be true to our truth. And here we don't mean our subjective truth. We don't mean our feminist truth. We don't mean our CRT truth. we mean who we actually are, what we actually believe about life and about ourselves. And if you can get through that, and accept that you will lose certain friendships, you may lose certain members of your family when you tell people, this is what I believe.
Yeah.
This is what I am. This is what I want from my life, and this is what I'm going to do.
You may be looked at funny. Well, at your job, maybe. Actually, I've expressed some things at my work, and I think people are pretty kind, and they don't really look at me too funny. But a lot of people they just haven't done this work.
Well, I think it helps. And I don't want to be judgmental, but I think it helps that if at your core you firmly believe in benevolence, if you firmly believe in graciousness, it's a little easier to tell people, I think you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that thing without it coming out as an attack. Even then, they may judge you, you may lose opportunities, but that's okay, because once you have integrity, and again, not just explicit integrity of, I know these 7 virtues and I act in accordance with them, I act in accordance with my explicit values. But once you actually live the life that matches your core, who you really are, once you achieve perfect integrity, you won't believe what happens next. That's stealing the author's words. She found at that point that as much as she lost, she gained far, far more.
Yeah.
She also says, at that point, everything was love. Now, Andrew Bernstein has spoken in those words before. Once you achieve your own hierarchy of values, once you live in accordance with what you actually believe, once you align your actions with your values.
I think Leonard Peikoff spoke in that way. I think at the end of Okar, I believe.
So here's the great thing. Among all of the other great things, the way of integrity, finding your path to your true self. I love that it's the way of integrity. I watched recently, because my darling daughter is nerdier than I am, if you can imagine that. And she's been watching The Mandalorian. I mean, she finished it a while ago. And she encouraged me to watch it. And I did. Like, oh, this is geeky and this is kind of silly. And I set it aside, and then I got back into it, and I started having more and more respect for it. It's better than I thought it was. And what I especially love about it is that the central character, this Mandalorian, this soldier who is part of an exclusive race and group of people who live by a specific code of honor and a specific code of conduct, he has complete integrity, enormous integrity. And it causes him to turn his back on what would have been the usual career path for somebody in his position, gets him into all sorts of trouble. He acts with complete integrity. He acts in accordance with the Mandalorian code. And you may have heard that expression, even if you haven't seen the television series, when he's doing something in accordance with that code and says, this is the way. It's the expression in the show, this is the way. Somebody will do something and some other Mandalorian will say, yes, this is the way. And the great thing about it is this character in this television show breaks that code. Or rather, he doesn't break that code. What he does is he adheres to his own personal code, his own personal way, his own integrity. And if you've watched it all the way through, I forget if it was 2 or 3 seasons, you see that right up until the very end. He lives by what he actually believes. So the book is called The Way of Integrity because it's a path, it's a journey, it's a process. And that means there's stuff to do. You read this book and there are exercises. In fact, there's pages and pages of exercises.
I have a question before you get into that.
Yes.
So when you were talking about conflict, a little skip and a jump a minute ago, my first thought was, wait, there's conflict, like an internal conflict.
There is.
And then you went on to describe, no, there's actually external conflict, which you're going to have to deal with. Yes. And work out with people. And then it's best to take the approach, kind of a more of a benevolent approach, and say, these people are not necessarily my enemies. They're just misguided, or they're ignorant, or however, and I need to talk with them. I need to explain things to them. Sometimes that, and then eventually the author, what's her name? Beck?
Yes.
Martha Beck.
Martha Beck.
Yeah. She really felt like a weight was lifted off her shoulders, or something along those lines that you described. After all that. And I can see that, because what you're doing, if you do that, if you're honest with people around you and you're open and you're giving of your knowledge, in other words, even if they don't necessarily, even if it doesn't quite make sense to them at first, you can try your best to explain it and kind of count on the fact that they know you at least somewhat. And you can count on their benevolence, perhaps, in listening to you and hearing you out. But once you get to that point and you're open, like I live my life as an open objectivist. I used to not be, because I wasn't entirely sure. This is a long time ago. But,
I wonder if anybody in the chat has any stories about when they came out of the closet.
When did you come out of the closet as an objectivist, folks? Put it in the chat.
Because I know people who haven't yet.
Yeah, right. Right. And honestly,
like to their family or their friends.
I mean, I don't know if that's actually caused any detriment in my life. I'm kind of blissfully oblivious to that. But I do know that, some people kind of think philosophy is something that is kind of even dark, or so convoluted that they wouldn't even, why is this person wasting their time on philosophy? And so, that I can recommend a book to them or however, but I should say this, Robert, that I am a out of the closet objectivist, but I'm not like a fire breathing objectivist. I don't go around talking about Ayn Rand all day. I will mention her, and I will give out the books as presents.
Well, that's not the way.
Yeah.
But the question is, what do you do when it comes up?
Yeah, when it comes up. Yeah.
And people ask you, what church do you go to?
And I say, this is what I say to people. I'm more philosophical than religious. I mean, it's kind of a little fudgy answer, but it kind of brings them on board with, oh, this person isn't quite religious. They're more intellectual. Okay.
Well, for better or for worse, reading this book might get you in touch with what that's doing to you.
Oh, am I doing something bad to myself?
You may be missing an opportunity.
Oh,
you just might. And
if I were more like here's the concrete wall about it,
It's not about a concrete wall.
It's
about, imagine for a second, if what you know about your position on religion, for example, was more important than anything else out there. Mm. Imagine if you were the most important person on earth.
I see what
and everything else was in relation to you.
Yeah.
Imagine I'm not saying you should do this, but just imagine, then hold it in your mind and think about it, and then think about what you want to do. But imagine if you could simply be clear and open, and not be afraid of what anybody's reaction is, and you could just say, "Oh, I'm not religious."
Yeah. Would you even say I'm philosophical, not religious?
You might say that to be charming. but the point is, are you saying that to be charming or to provide additional information, or are you saying that as a buffer? I need to worry about what this person says.
Sometimes I ask myself, do I use it as a buffer, or do I use it to give them an opportunity to ask me about philosophy if they want to?
That's great. Except you're setting yourself up for disappointment when they don't.
I see.
And you deserve to be understood. You deserve to be seen. Not even to be seen. You deserve to not have to worry about how you are seen. Not to be rude and not to say, "Look at me," but just you should never have to be afraid that, oh, somebody won't like this. Somebody will hold this against me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I have come out with certain people when they actively attack Ayn Rand, And that's when I say, yeah, no. I study Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism, and I have done so for like 30 years now. So, and I love it, and I can tell them that, but yeah.
So this enormous workbook, which would help you figure out, am I doing exactly the right thing already? Maybe everything I'm doing is great, or maybe I want to tweak that a bit.
Well, it's a matter of introspection, understanding what emotions you're feeling at the time. Do you feel like you're being crummy to yourself if you put that buffer in?
It's actually easier to say, am I being bad to myself, than it is to say, am I being untrue to myself? To be dispassionate, not to say, oh, I should be better to myself, but to say, no, I need to be in alignment with my truth, with what I know to be true, with my nature. So a great thing about this workbook, pages and pages. And even if you weren't following the way to integrity, the introspection in these resources is outstanding. And you could pick any page of this at random. Detecting your hustle. It turns out we're all doing a hustle. We're all playing the people around us. Now, some of us are doing that more honestly than others, but questions that and you write these in, you don't show this to anybody else. This is for you to figure out your own state of mind. Questions like, do you ever hang out with people you don't truly enjoy? Who are they? Do you consistently make yourself do anything or many things that you don't really want to do? Make a list. Are there things you do solely out of fear that not doing them will upset someone or lower your value in someone else's eyes? What are they? These exercises get you through those 4 domains and will help you be better aligned with yourself, with what you really believe is true, with what you really believe about yourself, with who you really are. And I'm learning that understanding Ayn Rand's idea of integrity is not enough to resolve all the psychological challenges and even all the cognitive challenges of being true to oneself. So this workbook here, all of this great stuff, you don't have to print up this big stack like I did, but you can get this PDF of this for free. It's great. You just go to Martha Beck's website and you request the exercises, and there's enough information on the website that even if you don't read the book, you'll know what to do with these exercises. And if you want to increase your level of integrity, if you want to really understand integrity, not just the explicit and conceptual version that Ayn Rand explains so brilliantly, but what it means to achieve full integrity in your own life, I recommend it. I think it's really good. The exercises are free. Download the PDF for free. The explanations are on the website. And speaking of free, if you know who Tim Ferriss is, great podcaster, great presenter, author of the 4-Hour Work Week and Tools of Titans, and all sorts of outstanding success, productivity, psychology, all sorts of self-improvement stuff. He's a big fan of Seneca. In fact, he's taken Seneca's letters and compiled them into 3 PDF files, which, you know what's coming, are free, a free resource for you to download from his website. The links to that are in the show notes that I posted on Facebook. And it's fun because, of course, it's Seneca. You can look that up on any of the free Gutenberg.org, any of the free websites. But Tim Ferriss's version are in PDF files. They're well laid out. They're like little books, and they're illustrated. And he gives you an idea of these 100 or 120, 150 letters, which ones he's found especially valuable. You can skip right to the good stuff. Very, very cool. Link to that is also in the show notes. Mm-hmm. Look up Tao of Seneca, or some of you will say the Tao of Seneca, which is just Tim Ferriss's point that this is the wisest stuff I have found in this person with whom I found enormous wisdom.
Yeah, one note about the whole idea of the way, the path.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems sort of like a straight line. And when I think of integration, I do, think of that the idea of the spiral theory of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's exactly right. And there's no conflict there, because the whole point of having a way is that it's a journey and you've got to go on it. It's a craft, it's an art. The whole point of objectivism is you can't learn this stuff and then you're an objectivist and you're rich. You actually have to do these things. You actually have to apply this to your life. If the way sounds too rigid, trust me, it's not. At least in terms of what I do with this wisdom, with these wisdom disciplines, it's not a single way. And that's just obvious from the fact you're going to apply it to your life. Anybody who applies this to their life, your life is messy. Not your life is messy. Everybody's life is messy. It's complicated. And that's why you need exercises and why you need to actually answer questions about yourself. There's a lot of great, living your best life, motivational things out there. Somebody recently, maybe on the thread that led to this discussion, talked about Randy Pausch's last lecture. You can listen to Steve Jobs' commencement address. There's 100,000 ways you can listen to motivating things that will tell you, yes, now I'm motivated. Now I want to live my best life. But at some point, you've actually got to do a bunch of work. Unless you're already, perfect isn't the right word. But unless you're already completely integrated. And I always go back to integrated, because integrity is precisely that. It's being integrated. When the kind of woo people come to you and say, are you living your truth? They may be onto something, because it really is a question. Are you living the life that your deepest self, that person inside of you, that person, your core beliefs, are you living what you really want to live? Are you doing with this life what matches your soul, your character, your consciousness? Remember, your consciousness isn't just your mind, your conceptual consciousness. It's also your imagination. It's also your emotional mechanism. It is your memories and the integration of your memories into new thoughts. Where do you think dreams come from? You are bigger than just your explicit concepts. And if you're going to live these ideas, if you're going to live objectivism, you've got to address all that stuff.
Yeah, you were saying that Martha Beck?
Martha Beck.
Yeah. So she was thinking in terms of there being, you have a mind, you have a body, and you have a soul. And I know you and I were talking about that. I don't know, tell me if you've already explained this, but you've got your soul, which is distinct from your intellect, or your conscious mind, in other words, at any given moment, what's in your brain and what's in your focus. But then you have your soul. I mean, would you say that your soul, in objectivist terminology, would your sense of life be part of that?
Sure.
Your psychology.
What else? I mean, soul is a metaphor. I'm not giving you an exact definition of here's what we mean by soul. The point is, it's the broader concept.
Yeah, it's so.
It includes your memories. It includes your imagination. It includes your everything. Chandler in the chat says psyche in Greek.
Okay. Yeah. I just kind of wonder, what's that, how the difference is with soul, and because it just seems like your soul is actually also part of your body in a lot of ways. I
always loved Christopher Hitchens' observation when he knew he had a mortal illness. And he said he was reminded daily of the fact that you don't have a body. You are a body. And I love that, because it wasn't materialism. It was simply making the point they're not separate. And the better integrated you are, yes, you'll find that your sense of life, the deepest emotions and your belief about what the world is and your place in it and what's possible is not separate from your conceptual life. It should be integrated. But it's precisely the fact that in so many ways we do split it apart. Part of it, as a result of being in a rotten culture. You don't tell the truth to the IRS or to the kidnapper who's asking, where are the kids? And you say, first room on the right. There are reasons why we tell lies. Most of those lies we need to stop telling. because even though we can justify them on moral grounds, they still have that effect of ripping us in two. Mark Twain once said, if you don't tell any lies, you don't have to remember anything. That's why when people ask me, Robert, can you keep a secret? I always tell them, no. And they always look at me like, don't you want to hear the secret? I'm like, no.
I got to say that's true. Absolutely true.
No, Amy knows this about me. I can't keep secrets.
Don't tell Robert any secrets unless you want them to get out at some point.
No, I used to do that. I used to be less honest. And I used to remember, oh yeah, I told this person that and I didn't tell that person that. That's no way to live. But even once you achieve an explicit level of honesty and you stop doing that kind of stuff, there are still ways in which we live that cause those same splits. Martha Beck, and I suspect Ayn Rand, make the point that no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to live with that. You can have integrity, just as you can have honesty. So I recommend these resources to folks. Martha Beck's not an objectivist. Seneca, obviously, as a Stoic, isn't an objectivist. If you're wondering, well, is Stoicism the right way to go? No, the answer is no. And read anything by Aaron Smith on Stoicism if you want to know why Stoicism is not the philosophy you should follow. But the wisdom of Seneca, the things he says about how to live the best life, how to be honest, how to have integrity, and how to be in control of yourself. What virtue is self-control? No, that falls under focus, right? No, it doesn't. Well, it falls under integrity. It falls under honesty. It falls under productiveness. It falls under, but how do you actually do the right things once you know what they are? It's not as simple as, well, an honest man, once he knows the right thing to do, he does the right thing. All of you know that that's not true. I think resources like this are valuable. I think they're helpful. And you want to be able to say when somebody says, what's your philosophy? What do you believe? They might say, what's your religion? Oh, I'm an objectivist. I don't have a religion. I have a philosophy. You want to be able to say that and know, not just explicitly and not just in ways you could justify if you had to, but you want to know deep down and at your core, and that's actually what I am. And I'm not trying to shoehorn what I am into objectivism. I'm using objectivism to be the best version of what I really am that's possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I have to say on integrity. Real quick before we wrap up. Again, one more time, objectivism.co.uk to become a member of the Ayn Rand Center UK. If you become a member, join us on Sunday mornings. We're also restarting the fiction study group. We had some great discussions about the early Ayn Rand, several stories in that book. Then we did Calla McKay, which wasn't Ayn Rand, but it was one of her favorite stories ever. And now we're going to get into the Fountainhead. In fact, for the first sessions of that, Shoshana Milgram and Lisa Van Dam are going to participate. If you're a member, you'll have access to that. You'll have access to the Ominous Parallels study group on Sunday mornings. You'll have access to all sorts of fun. You should be a member. We're members. You want to be like us. You know you do. It's in your integrity because, you value what we do. No, really. Become a member. Also join the Ayn Rand Center UK YouTube channel. Tomorrow, we will not be joining James Valiant for our weekly Leonard Peikoff essays, but we will pick it up again next Friday. And I got to say, congratulations, Amy. Even though you have the Rona, you've tested positive every day this week. You're holding up remarkably well.
Well, I am. That's because
it's the baby Rona.
That's because it's a baby Rona because my my Moderna vaccine.
That's true. You were inoculated.
Generated T cells that and other things that lived dormant in my bone marrow, and then when the Rona came at me, the T cells were like, come at me, bro. Come at me, Ro.
We're already ready for this. We're already equipped.
And and then, whatever amount of dose I inhaled, at this play that we went to on Friday.
Probably the
source. It just, my antibodies came at it. And it I think it probably also helped it stop duplicating itself, as the Rona does. So that stopped it. And then it just kind of stayed in and decided to hang out in my face.
That's right. We are all about the science. We are pro-science.
the most scientific explanation ever in the world.
Bring it on. Bring it on. More is better.
And so anyway, I'm doing all right. I'll be just right as rain in another few days. I doubt if it's going to be long COVID. But anyway, that's what happens. So yeah, if you are, I would recommend with this particular variant, I'm not amygdalgia, but I say if you've got some health problems and you're kind of up in years, I recommend getting a booster. That's all I'm going to say.
So there you go. If you believe in science, show your integrity. Let them put that stuff in you. That's what I did. And don't you want to be like me? Oh, wait, that's not integrity, is it? Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I had to give these thoughts on integrity. Look at those resources. On my Facebook wall, there is a list of links to the Tim Ferriss version of the Seneca materials, links to Seneca as well on Wikipedia, et cetera, et cetera. You will find the link to the Martha Beck book and the free resources. Download them. You don't even have to print them out like I did. Who wants to waste all that paper and ink? Print them up electronically and then run through the exercises. Do a few of them. You will find them valuable. Reread Ayn Rand's definition of integrity. Look at the resources on the Ayn Rand lexicon. I especially love that courage and confidence are represented by themselves, because that's application. And that's everything. I want you to apply these ideas. I want you to be happy. I want you to get as much out of this philosophy as I can. And I want to say thank you. Thank you very much. We'll see you on Clubhouse. It's going to be a short session. I just want to hear what anybody has to say. If you've got more words in your mouth than you've put in the chat, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.